A very good morning, children. How are you all? I hope all of you are keeping well. Students, in today's video class, we are going to revise the first poem of Hornbill book. The name of the poem is A Photograph, and it has been composed by Charlotte Olson. Students, first of all, chapter highlights. Student, the poem has three stanzas. The first stanza depicts the girlhood of the poet's mother, means the period before the birth of the poet. Second stanza is about her middle age, the poet's mother's middle age, the period during the childhood of the poet. And the final stanza depicts period after the death of the poet's mother. Students, this poem is a tribute to the poet's mother. So let us see the stanza-wise explanation of the poem. Student, the first stanza is like this. The cardboard shows me how it was when the two girl cousins went paddling, each one holding one of my mother's hands, and she the big girl, some 12 years or so. Here, student, paddling means walking. So, students, in these lines, the poet is looking at an old photo album which is made up of cardboard. And in the picture, there are three girls who are walking on the beach, holding each other's hands. And the girl in the middle is the tallest and the oldest one. And the other two girls on each side are younger than her. Student, the girl in the middle is actually the poet's mother. She is around 12 years old when the picture was taken. Student, second stanza says, all three stood still to smile through their hair at the uncle with the camera. A sweet face, my mother's, that was before I was born. And the sea, which appears to have changed less, washed their terribly transient feet. Student, here transient means short term, temporary. So students, in the above lines, the poet is describing how the photograph was taken. Her mother's uncle took the photograph and told them to stop and pose. And all three of them left their wet hair open and smiled at the camera, students. And the poet's attention is drawn towards his mother's face, which is described as a sweet face. So the photograph was taken long before the poet was born. The poet calls their feet terrible transient. Why? As they were so young by then and now they had grown older. And students, on the other hand, the sea which touch their feet have changed less. And the next stanza is some 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the snapshot, at the photo. And what she used to say, see Betty and Dolly, she would say, look how they dressed us for the beach. The sea holiday was her past. Mine is her laughter. Both wry with the labor days of loss. So, students, after 20 years later, she would laugh at the photograph whenever she used to look at the photograph. And she would tell me to look at her cousins, Betty and Dolly, and how their parents would dress all three of them up for the beach in that time. So she used to tell me this thing. They would have planned to take a photograph beforehand. And then, students, the poet recalls the sea holiday. She recalls the sea holiday was her mother's favorite moment from the past, while the poet's favorite moment was her mother's laughter. So now, student, both the women used to think about those past memories which they cannot live again. Students, they tried their best to adjust what they have lost. And in these lines, students, these lines are like this. Now she has been dead nearly as many years as the girl lived. And of this circumstance, there is nothing to say. But there is nothing to say. It's silence, silences. Here, silences means, students, a complete absence of sound. So, a student, in the above line, the poet says that her mother died 12 years ago, means the same age her mother was in the photograph. So, student, whenever the poet thinks of her mother's death, she cannot explain what effect she has of her mother's death. Student, now death has silenced her mother, which has also left her speechless. So, this was the explanation of the poem, students. Hope you have understood it. Thank you, class.